Blind boxes and surprise items are everywhere, and I mean everywhere these days. From collectible keychains to mystery parcels, the popularity of randomized items has spread rapidly in the past few years. The concept of these items of chance isn't something new. We've had stuff like trading card packs and gachapon machines around Singapore for decades now. I get the appeal. You definitely get a small rush of excitement when you open one of these. But do people stop at one? Or do they keep trying for more till they get the one they were gunning for? Or perhaps one that's worth more than the rest? And when that happens, and people buy more and more, does it become a form of gambling? These keychains, toys and cards may seem harmless if you just get one or two, but if one gets hooked onto the thrill of the element of surprise, could it lead to a gambling addiction? At what point does it become a problem? We interviewed some people for their opinions. Let's take a look.
I think a lot of people buy like blind boxes before. I've seen, a lot. And they sell so many different types, Labubu and everything, and then they're like Sunny Angels as well.
Pokemon cards is the only one I buy.
Usually like those figures or even like back charms.
Me personally, when I buy, I've been thinking about it for months because like usually I'll do some research on the cards that are dropping. Maybe it's like a specific Pokemon that I like and I really want that card. The amount that I buy could be impulsive. Maybe I decided that I was going to buy one booster box, but after reaching the card shop, I might buy more.
Certain people I know, they really obsessively want like a certain one, and if they don't get it, then they will start buying multiple, trying to pull the one that they really want.
I do have one specific one that I really want, but if I get the other ones, it's fine.
I wouldn't say impulsive purchases because I've seen people who just buy like one or two, but some people, like if they buy one, they like to have all the collection. So maybe that is an impulsive behavior.
Not knowing is part of the fun of blind boxes, so I don't really mind not getting the one I want.
I kind of just buy them because I have the urge to unbox.
The reason people buy it is because it's like exciting to open it and see. So I still think the closed ones have the appeal lah.
I think it depends on the mentality lah. For most people, I think it's just about embracing your inner child, right? So I think that's why adults, when they have a bit of money, it's a form of escapism lah.
I think they know what they're doing when they buy it. And I think they know the consequences if they don't get what they want. So I think they mentally prep themselves like, hey, okay, I'm just gonna like whatever that comes out. I've seen people spend thousands of dollars on it. Like, damn.
I do know people that will spend copious or excessive amounts of money doing so, and I think it's obviously not very smart budget-wise.
Yeah, I have addicted, but like I have stopped. So.
Former.
So it's not a form of gambling, I would say, because gambling is like hoping to get something more in return. But with just doll, it's just something for emotional support. So I don't think it's a form of gambling.
Absolutely, it is why we buy it, to fulfill our gambling urge, you know?
For me, I don't think it's gambling because I'm not buying to sell, I'm buying it for myself. So there's no expected value to come out of it, so I don't see it as gambling, no.
I think like some people get an adrenaline rush when they open, and then they try to chase that feeling, so they keep buying, and I think that might lead to addiction.
Ultimately, it comes down to the individual. If you have poor self-restraint, then anything like even Kinder Joy can become an obsession or like gambling, if you will.
So it seems as though there isn't a clear answer as to whether people think these blind boxes can be considered gambling or not. But all of them seem to agree that you can get hooked onto the rush and even possibly get addicted to buying them. Gambling, as we typically know it in the form of casinos or betting, is regulated by different laws in Singapore. So, could those regulations apply to blind boxes in the future as well? I'd like to find out more. Hi Alexander, thanks so much for taking the time to speak to us today.
Yeah, not at all, Edward. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, we've got this stuff here. What's the appeal of blind boxes, do you think?
Let's start by talking a little bit about what do we mean by blind boxes, right? You can see there's lots of different things here. What do these things all have in common? It's you don't know what's inside. And I think that's the appeal. You know roughly what's inside, but you don't know exactly what's inside, and therein lies the fun. It's that little like dopamine hit, it's that little bit of the unexpected, right? We like things that are new, we like things that are novel, we quite enjoy not being 100% in control in many situations.
They're leveraging off this element of chance. of randomness. Isn't that akin to gambling?
Let's take a step back from the legal definition for a moment, right? And think about what is gambling and what's wrong with gambling. Is there a difference between gambling and randomness and chance? I think probably there is. Like, there are many things that are chancy that are not necessarily gambling. What really conceptually makes gambling is that you stake something on the outcome of chance, right? So if I flip a coin and I say, hey Edward, heads or tails, is that gambling? Not really. But if I now say, okay, Edward, heads or tails, and if it's whatever you choose, then you get $10. Is that gambling? That's now gambling, right? Because something hinges on the outcome of that.
It sounds to me like there's is that promise of profit, that promise of a reward, a material reward.
So when we think about these things, the loot boxes and stuff, my instinctive reaction is, I don't think it sounds a lot like gambling because nothing really turns on the outcome, right? You're not really betting anything on the outcome. But really the principle that we need to be looking at is what is the harm that is being caused, right? When we think about laws and how we apply laws, lawyers, we have this thing called a purposive approach. We have to think about the purpose behind the laws when we interpret them, right? So what's the purpose behind anti-gambling laws? It's not to stop you gambling per se, right? It's to stop the harms that come out of gambling. And what are the harms that come out of gambling? It's that addictive effect which creates negative impacts for yourself and for your family and for society.
So I have personal experience with this because in 1997, I started playing a collectible card game. I was spending, I kid you not, almost all my allowance on it. I'm thinking back to that and I'm thinking, there was a lot of harm being done to me back then.
That's a sort of microcosm of the problem of gambling, right? We can't regulate everything. To go down to the level of, okay, we're going to regulate this because kids might lose their allowance on it, that's going to be pretty harsh, it's going to be pretty difficult to enforce. It's kind of a spectrum. You don't want to go too far up, in which case anything with any element of chance, I got to regulate that for your own good, right? But at the same time, there are clear lines.
What are the lines that the government has put in place to protect people against behavior that's obviously going to be bad for themselves and for society and their families?
Generally, in terms of the law, you want to protect people from bad things that are done by other people. When it comes to gambling, we're getting further and further down the line, right? Because we're saying, well, now you're not necessarily harming other people, but you could be harming yourself and there could be knock-on effects to your family, right? Policymakers have a limited amount of time. It takes quite a lot of resources to go to Parliament and get a law passed to do this. And the boundaries of that law and that policy have to be certain enough. So, unless there is good evidence that this is a real harm, that it's having real negative effects on society, I don't think regulators generally will go to the trouble of regulating it. But even coming back to the core of this, right, should we even have that policy? At a certain level, these things aren't that harmful, right? It's not that harmful for there to be a bit of randomness in your life. In fact, gambling, there's nothing wrong with it when it's done within certain parameters, right? Yeah. When it's not done to excess. The blind box phenomenon itself is not new. PopMart, of course, this kind of labubu thing is new. But blind box phenomenon is not new. Is labubu something to be worried about? The fact that people are spending thousands of dollars on labubu? Well, look, if in 5-10 years people are going bankrupt from buying labubus, okay, maybe we should do something about it. But chances are by next year or the year after, it'll be something else. So maybe it's not about labubu or PopMart specifically. It's a question of, is this something that fuels addictive behavior in like a persistent and dangerous way, or is it something that's just a fad and it's going to blow over? And for gambling, the existing law is primarily the Gambling Control Act. Right? And the Gambling Control Act has a pretty wide definition of gambling. The only way that you know for sure whether these things satisfy the definition of gambling is if a judge says these things satisfy the definition of gambling, right? And we don't currently have a case, as far as I'm aware, that says that so definitively.
Thank you so much, Alexander.
No, not a problem.
I really appreciated you going through this with me and working it out.
It's a pleasure.
So, blind boxes. Harmless fun? Or something that could lead to more serious behavioral issues? Let us know what you think. And if you buy blind boxes too.